Hello and welcome to the Manifest Destiny Workshop 2023. And I'm so honored to be here with each and every one of you guys. It means a lot to me because this is my first workshop that I'm actually a part of and teaching. And I'm so excited to have it be this one because it's so important. Manifestation is everything, right? I mean, you go through your life and everything that manifests in this physical world is a manifestation of your thought process. It all starts here, right? So I'm so excited to be able to teach you guys how to manifest your best life. First and foremost, a little bit about me. My name is Elisabeth, of course. I am the creative director for Forbidden Knowledge. I am also the host of Biohack Your Best Life and my new podcast that I host with Maria Carson, which is Billy's sister, is called Numb. New Understanding and Mental Breakthroughs. And both of these podcasts are very important and close to my heart because they speak about things that are so important in this world and trauma. That is basically what I'm going to be teaching you guys today is trauma. Trauma, getting it out of your body, why it happens to us, the anatomy of the brain, the nervous system. It's very interesting the way that these vessels work. They're so complex, so intricate, and so intelligent. So I'm going to dive super deep into that. So I do want to let you guys know a little bit about my story. As you know, if you follow me on any social platforms or if you watch any of my podcasts or if you've read my book, you know that I like to be completely transparent about my struggles in life and just basically what I've been through, because I was able to take a traumatic beginning and not call it a life sentence. That's one of my quotes in my book. I really got out of traumatic behavior and negative behavior, negative thought patterns. And it was quite a ride. But after my son was born, I really changed my life. To begin, I was adopted. I was in Korea for the first 3 months of my life. And in doing some trauma work, I regressed back into my mother's womb and experienced my birth. And it was a very healing journey that I took with myself. And basically what I realized is that I came out of the womb and I didn't see my mother. I didn't even get to make eye contact with her. The nurses, they literally took me right away. And then after that, back in the day in Korea, no one knew that it's so incredibly important to be able to feel and touch a baby and show a baby love and have that skin to skin contact when you have a new baby. This is so incredibly important. Let me tell you guys, because just not having that in the absence of that created so much trauma from the very beginning of my life. I remember I experienced the emotions of coming out of the birth canal and literally my first moments into the world. And the initial thoughts and emotions are just complete. I want mom and I want mom's embrace. And I just want to be embraced with love and tenderness and softness. And unfortunately, I didn't get that. So throughout my childhood and even my life, my entire life, I've had huge abandonment issues. And I never knew why until I actually experienced my birth all over again. So it was very healing for me because once you can place awareness on something, then you can then start to heal it, right? It doesn't really necessarily take away the pain of it and it doesn't take away the trigger, but you become in control of the trigger. And the feelings of abandonment aren't as strong as they used to be. I don't lose consciousness when I feel like I'm being abandoned anymore. I notice it, but I'm able to process it and work through it in a more conscious way. So yeah, that kind of created a very traumatic beginning for me just because I was younger and I had a lot of anger. At the same time, I was super happy and really intelligent as a young child. But later doing the trauma work again, I realized that some of the ways that my parents raised me, they just fed and then scratched on that core wound of mine, which is that abandonment issue. And so they would leave me in the room and I would have tantrums and I'd be beating the ground and screaming, shouting and hitting my head against things. And I'm like, now that I'm an adult, I look back at that time and I'm like, why would I have all of that emotion? So much emotion as just a tiny little child. I realize now it was the anger from the abandonment of my birth mom. So my parents didn't know this, of course, and they, I had beautiful parents, but they didn't know, and so they would leave me in the room with the door closed if I would throw a tantrum. When really all I wanted to be was embraced. I just wanted to be embraced with love, but I couldn't vocalize that at the time. So that fed into that abandonment issue, and unfortunately, I was abused for a very long time when I was really little. I actually did a therapy called EMDR and realized that the memories of those years that was happening, I had repressed them. And I also realized, because you go back into that memory, right? EMDR kind of brings up the same instance, the traumatic instance, and you basically relive it, but process it in a different way. That's what EMDR is, or had did for me. And I realized that I couldn't even talk at the beginning of when the abuse started happening. I couldn't even get words out. I didn't know what words were yet. So it started at a very, very young age. And it lasted for a very, very long time, not consistently, but it lasted for probably about 6 years. And then after that experience, of course, I just fell into a lot of traumatic behavior, a lot of bad, so quote unquote, bad behavior. I started to sell drugs at a very young age. I was actually 11 and I started selling bags of sage as weed. And I'm looking, as an adult, my adult mind, I look back on these times, I'm like, wow, I was really, really just not consciously where I was supposed to be. And why was I making all of these crazy moves and behaving in this way? And now as an adult, and I've done my shadow work and trauma work, I realized I was in a ton of pain. I was running away from the pain, and I was using whatever I could to stimulate myself so I could get out of that pain feeling and feel something different, right? So the excitement of selling drugs was like, ooh, it gave my nervous system something different to feel. After that, I'm younger. I have an older brother, and unfortunately, he got very sick and needed a kidney transplant when I was young. I think I was 11 years old, right around that time. And so my mother, my adopted mother, and my brother's adopted too, ended up actually being a match for his kidney. And you're only a match for one in four people. So that was a magical thing for him. And he was quite blessed to be in a family where he's not blood related to anybody, but there was a match in our family. So my mother ended up giving her kidney to my brother. And this was so traumatic for me in my teen years, growing up as a young woman, because I needed guidance. I needed to learn how to be a woman, right? And I wasn't really getting that because my brother was so sick. There was hospital visits almost every weekend. There was dialysis, and it was just, I wasn't getting very much attention. And again, my core wound was being scratched on all the time because I was getting sent to these different families that I didn't know, I wasn't comfortable with. I was raised in a church, and I was getting sent to these random church people's houses. And it just made me feel so uncomfortable. So that was compounded upon all of the other stuff that I had already been through at this time. Thank goodness the kidney took. My brother got better, but that took some years of stuff. So I really, really fell into negative patterns. I started drinking at a very young age. I was drinking, I think I had my first drink at 11 or 12. I started smoking weed very, very young. And I was basically just trying to feel, right? I was trying to get out of the numb feeling that I had created because there was just so much pain. Now, when I was 13, I started having these dreams and nightmares of getting sexually abused, and they became so real. I actually went to my parents and I was like, I think I have issues. I need to go see a therapist. And at the therapist appointment, I remember this like it was yesterday. I was sitting across from her, and all of a sudden, as I started speaking about my dreams, these memories started rushing back. And it was showing me through my dreams. And I had basically, my brain repressed those memories. We're going to get a little bit into the brain and the brain's anatomy and why it behaves the way it does. And if something's really, really traumatic happens to you as a young child, your brain will repress those memories so you can be able to grow and you can be able to go through life. It's actually a protection mechanism from your brain to be able to function, right? So, I mean, some of us still have repressed memories that we maybe might not even ever remember, but yet we're having these physical ailments that we can't even realize why, right? And that's what part of the shadow work is to dig into these things so we can put awareness on them and then let them go, right? Because if we have these unconscious memories that sit in our bodies, our physical bodies remember and our cells remember, but our consciousness does not, right? So the shadow work really helps to open up these floodgates of traumatic events and memories. So then we can place awareness on them. And then, like I said, let them go. So yeah, I fell into a lot of negative things. I started modeling at a very young age. I was 16. And by that age, I was skipping school. I was living on my own. I actually moved out of my house when I was 14 years old. And I moved in with my ex at the time, and his dad was a drug addict. So we were being watched by a drug addict, my ex-boyfriend and his cousin. And I lived with those guys, which threw me into a whole bunch of more traumatic situations. It was really, really bad. I was going to college parties at 14, 15 years old. Another rape happened to me in my teen years and then again in my young 20s. And, I'm not telling you guys this because I want to feel any sort of sorrow or anything like that, because I've processed all of these events in my life and I have processed and gotten through them. And I want to be here to inspire those that when you feel like life is against you and you've just been bogged down by trauma all the time and it just keeps happening and you keep experiencing these instances of traumatic behavior and it feels like there's no hope. There is hope. I am here to tell you there is hope. You can feel better. I went through my whole life feeling like I had a hole in my stomach. Like I would tell my girlfriends all the time, like, I'm happy, but I feel like I'm missing something. And now that I've done my shadow work, I finally know that I was missing my own self-love. I didn't have any love for myself. Therefore, I was creating patterns and situations and going into environments that I would sabotage myself. Like I was at these college parties, and of course, there's a lot of drinking that goes on. There's a lot of drugs that go on. So I put myself into these situations that are highly dangerous for a young woman, right? Because I wasn't quite there. My mind, I was just trying to get out of pain. So I was drinking all the time. And I got so far into pain that I became numb and I started drinking and doing drugs to feel something finally. So yeah, I mean, that's my teenage and young years. I ended up getting pregnant. Oh, I missed something. I actually was like a big hustler. Like I was a hustler on the streets, and I was doing a lot of illegal activity. And if you've read my book, you kind of know what that illegal activity is. I won't get into it now, but I got in trouble. Long story short is I got in trouble. I ended up going to jail for an extended period of time. And all of this stuff has happened. And I look back at it now and it's so interesting because I can feel that those people, my young years, my teenage years, my early 20s, even the young girl that was in jail, I can feel that person in me, but it's like an experience. It's so distant because my consciousness is in such a different place these days. So that shows me that I've grown so much. And, yeah, it's just life is really, really different and pleasant. It's finally pleasant for me these days. But that's because I have done the work to remove the trauma from my mind, my body, and my energy. And that's what I'm going to be teaching you guys today is how to do so, because you cannot manifest your best life and you cannot manifest what's divinely for you if you have stress, trauma, depression, anxiety, negative thought patterns within your system that you can't get rid of. It's so difficult to be able to manifest things that are optimally for you when you're in these negative vibrations, these low vibrations, these low frequencies. That's what the universe is receiving. So that's what it's sending back to you. So in order to really manifest your best life, you have to be able to get the trauma out of your mind, body, soul, and really just get present. And it's very difficult to be present when you're stuffed up with trauma. And especially after the whole world's sickness that we just went through, we just got over like crazy years. I'm talking like pandemics and freaking just everything negative, wars. I mean, what are we doing right now? This is craziness. So obviously, a ton of us are stressed out after the whole pandemic. I mean, 90% of the whole world was walking around in fight or flight. And what does that mean? Well, I'm going to talk to and get into details later, but fight or flight, literally 30% of your blood flow in your frontal lobe goes to your hindbrain, goes into your reactive brain. So you're not consciously in control of yourself. So we were locked into the stay at home, being at home with our families. We're not used to it. We're not used to not being able to go to work, grocery stores, babysitters. Just, it was a whole bunch of traumatic mess. And we were forced to face ourselves. That's why suicide went up. Alcohol and drug abuse went up. Abuse went up. Everything, all these negative things went up during the pandemic because we had to slow down. We had to slow down and face ourselves. And a lot of people, especially in the Western culture, like to stimulate to be able to distract themselves from who they are, from the pain. So unconsciously, subconsciously, we always find these extra things to do, these other careers. We pick up these things, we go to work, we keep ourselves busy. We watch TV, which takes us out of consciousness. We lose our minds and let our minds go, and they can go into the show. And we're never really consciously here. Now, is that a life you want to live? I don't think so, because you cannot intentionally create what you want without being conscious, right? If you're stuck in distraction all the time, you're not ever here. And when you're here, you're able to consciously, intentionally manifest what's for you. Real quick, I think I dove into this work, especially not only to get out of pain and try to make myself feel better, but I got into this work because I've watched my whole family suffer. Okay. And I haven't really talked about this too much before. I can't talk about it on these other platforms because we'll get deleted and censored and all type of crazy stuff. So I am so far against our Western medicine. I'm so far against Big Pharma. They ruined my family's life, literally. So I'm on this quest to put out this holistic knowledge and information so people can really heal themselves, because literally Western medicine, it killed my dad. Literally killed my dad. It messed up my brother for years and years and years. And it's like, it's an old system that doesn't work anymore. I mean, the way that they have things, it's like we have a war on drugs, right? But Big Pharma is the biggest drug dealer ever. But we have the war on drugs, right? I mean, it really doesn't even make any type of sense. I mean, my dad went into knee surgery, okay? Just simple knee surgery. Came out a week later, he's dead, okay? And this is it's so crazy to me because this type of stuff happens all the time. My brother was a young boy and he was having issues with his bladder, and the doctor didn't catch it. They didn't catch it. So now for the rest of his life, he's handicapped and he has to get kidneys because one kidney does not last your entire life. A kidney lasts about 20 years if you're lucky. So my brother's kidney that he received from my mom has failed. He's now on dialysis, goes to dialysis 4 days a week for 4 hours. That's a big chunk of time out of your life, right? And on top of that, Big Pharma has prescribed him. He takes over 150 pills a day. And that's just ridiculous. First of all, because pills interact together and create horrible things. I mean, steroids, immunosuppressants, anti-anxiety, anti-depression. I mean, his belly, his gut is huge. It's huge. He has like gas all the time. He's always belching. And that's because of all this medication that he's on. And you know what the doctors told him? He shouldn't drink a whole bunch of water. He shouldn't do and eat these specific healthy foods because they're not good for his kidney. But hello, I mean, it's a really, really sad system. I'm highly against it. And that's why I have dove so deep into making people aware of how bad it really is. I mean, I was going to a doctor to get drugs, right? I mean, this is what the doctor told me. And I was wanting the drugs back then. But I go into the doctor and I'm about 26 years old at the time. And I tell him, hey, I have a newborn baby. I have 2 jobs and I'm going to school full time. Don't ask me how I did it, but I did it. Okay. I needed to support my baby. Unfortunately, my son's father had went to prison the beginning of my son's life. So it was just me and my son for the first couple years of his life. I was out there hustling. Okay. So I go into the doctor's office and I tell him what's going on with my life. And he's like, oh, well, that sounds like Adderall. He's like, I'm going to prescribe you some Adderall. And that's also good because now you're not going to get fat. So here you go. Wrote me a script to Adderall. Boom. And then he was like, oh, and by the way, you might not be able to go to sleep at night. So I'm going to get this Xanax over here and I'm going to prescribe this Xanax to you too. Boom. Here you go. Oh, you got into a car accident? Oh, your back hurts slightly here and there? Oh, no problem. Norco. Boom. 3 scripts that day. Narcotics, right? Me, I have a very addictive personality. I had already been into drugs. I mean, by the time I was 19, I was taking 8 ecstasy pills in one day. I mean, I should have been dead so many times in my life, which is how I know I'm here meant to do something. But I mean, I really should have died. And so I'm going into this professional doctor, this person that's supposed to be helping my health, right? Making me feel better about life and getting me healthier. Well, here he is prescribing me narcotics. And that was the beginning of a couple of years of addiction to pills. And so I know what it does to you. I know how addictive these medications are. I know because I've been through it. And I got to the point where I was even lying to my friends and my family about it. And that's when I knew I had a problem, when I had to lie about my drug habits and my drug use. I was with my ex and he didn't even know that I was high all the time. I literally had to stay high. Well, he was so awful, so I wanted to be high around him anyway. That was the only way I could stand him. But I was high all the time. And I was addicted. So long story short, all I'm saying, point to the story is I'm against Big Pharma. I think that it's just awful what they do to your body, your mind. They make you become dependent on their pills. And so they can get a paycheck every single month. It's like the system that is set up right now. They want to keep you between sick and healthy. So you can keep on going back, grabbing your script, paying them every single month, sick and healthy. They don't ever want you to become healthy. So then you can actually feel better and you don't need them anymore. Because that would mean no dollars, right? No dollars. That's not the way I want to live. So I took my stuff in my own hands and I started to work on myself. And that was the best decision I could have ever made. Something about me is that my life, I've always wanted to strive for the best, even when I was on drugs and an alcoholic and doing all these crazy things, doing all these illegal activities in the streets and doing all this other stuff. I still was able to hustle out here, right? I still had regular jobs. I still went to college. I still got degrees. I still did all this stuff. I still raised my son by myself. I've still done it all. So it was like I had these 2 lives that were running congruent with each other. One, the dark side that no one really knew about. I was suffering, doing drugs and just drinking my sorrows away. And it was just, I was in bad shape. But what did I show the world? I mean, I had a successful modeling career, a successful acting career. I then became a chef. I was a culinary arts. I was a pastry chef. I'm still a pastry chef. I'm also a baker. I'm also a real estate agent. I ended up actually recruiting 30 agents under me, and we took over basic Michigan real estate. I mean, we broke records for getting the most campaign offices in the shortest amount of time in campaign history. I ended up working with some of the politicians in Michigan. And, then I found my love for service, right? And in becoming friends with a lot of different politicians, I found out how awful things were in the city of Detroit. Specifically Detroit, because I was really, really close with a senator that was he headed over Detroit City. So he let me in on some of the secrets that were going on. And, the whole big Flint water crisis, that was the thing. But Detroit, not much better, just swept under the rug. swept under the rug. I'm like, are you serious? And then he's telling me about all these toxic schools. And then I'm starting to think about it and I'm starting to research on it. And I was like, wow, the infrastructure of Detroit City is so incredibly old, right? So old. So back before 1978, they used to have lead-based paint. Lead-based paint. What does lead do? Lead is a neurotoxin. Lead can kill you. Lead messes you up, right? Lead-based paint, asbestos. I mean, lead in the water, fluoride in the water, prescriptions in the water, toxic lights when you go to school. I mean, so I really found out how awful the situation really is in Detroit and for our children there. And it really touched something in my heart. And I fought like hell for 2 years trying to rebuild those schools, trying to introduce bills into the House and the Senate so different laws could get passed about allowing these kids to go to school at these toxic places. There should be some regulation about that. So I was fighting this cause for years. And unfortunately, at the time, it didn't really do much. I was sitting down. I remember this meeting like it was yesterday. I was sitting down with a couple different senators and a lobbying firm. My mother is actually a lobbyist. She's retired now, but she opened her own lobbying firm in Lansing. So I was driving back and forth between Detroit and Lansing for years. And the last meeting that we had, I'm sitting across this huge long table and we're talking about what's happening. And I'm like, so where are we at with this bill? Can we get this bill written and put into the House to introduce it so we can see if we can make some change here? And they're like, you know what? Your initiative is honorable, but unfortunately, come back to us in 3 to 5 years because this probably isn't going to even get pushed through right now. And I was like, what? So this is the system. This is the system that we're living under. It's like, and then I won't even get into the politics aspect of it, but it's so difficult to even get laws passed. You have to go through levels and then decisions. And then if one little change is made, it's got to start over. So it takes years to create these new laws to help communities. So it's just, this system is backwards. And Billy talks about it all the time. I mean, it's based on the ancient way. So it's like, we have to find some solutions here and try to create some change because, I mean, it shouldn't have been a thought. There's a $900,000 rainy day fund in Michigan, right? I find out from my friend that was a senator. And so why are we not using some of that money to rebuild these schools? Why are we not using some of that money to do good for our communities, right? Doesn't really make sense to me. I did find out last year or a couple years ago that water filtration systems are being installed into some of the schools, which made me so happy because someone, I guess, was making a big uproar back in the day and word got around. So they did end up installing water filtration systems in some of the high schools, which really made me feel good. The work is not done there, and I will continue to work as tirelessly and hard as I can for that city and for all cities, but specifically Detroit, just because, you know, that's where I'm from. So it takes a community. It takes a community to make change, right? And that's why we're all here, because we're all in the same thinking frequency. We all want the betterment of ourselves, which means we want the betterment of our people out here, right? We're not separate from anything. If we make ourselves better, then the world becomes better. So it's for us to come together, work together, and try to make these changes, right? Because obviously it's not working. It's not working. And it's manifesting all over this planet in war, sickness, disease, you know, all of these things that are happening, abuse. Do you know that 1 in 3 women are sexually abused throughout their lives at some point? 1 in 3. That number is staggering. We need to change. That's why I'm here today, so I can teach you guys how to create some change. And maybe you can educate some other people and they can create some change, right? It's a chain reaction. I mean, my goal in this life, and I knew this when I was young, I wanted to help a massive amounts of people. And I was meditating this one day and I could see one light in my mind's eye, and all of a sudden, whoosh, light spread everywhere. And I felt like that's what I'm going to do. That's what I'm going to do in this world. I'm going to create massive amounts of change because of you guys, because you guys are here today and are dedicating this time to be able to learn this education, learn this knowledge so you can be better people. That's amazing. Amazing. So thank you all for being here. I'm going to get started on my presentation now. Next slide. Let's get into what is trauma. So trauma is the response to a deeply distressing or disturbing event that overwhelms an individual's ability to cope, causes feelings of helplessness, diminishes their sense of self, and their ability to feel their full range of emotion. Traumatic events push the nervous system outside its ability to regulate itself. For some, the nervous system gets stuck in the on position, and the person is overstimulated and unable to calm. Anxiety, anger, restlessness, panic, and hyperactivity can all result when you stay in this ready to react mode. Now, I told you guys earlier, 90% of people on this planet were in fight or flight after the whole sickness happened. And so, I mean, think about how all of us were acting. Very, very crazy, right? We were acting super duper crazy. I mean, you saw all these different crazy crimes pop up, and that's because a lot of us are walking around in fight or flight. We have no control over our conscious movement. So it's deep. The stress responses and the nervous system. There are 4 different stress responses that I will go over. After this slide, this is cool. I'll probably try to send this out to you guys as well. This shows your nervous system and what each branch of the nervous system does, the sympathetic and parasympathetic system. Now, if you can see, the sympathetic system, it accelerates the heartbeat, inhibits salivation, dilates your pupils, inhibits secretion in your gut, stimulates glucose production and release, secretion of adrenaline and noradrenaline. It inhibits bladder contraction. And then the parasympathetic system constricts pupils, stimulates saliva flow, constricts bronchi, slows heart rate, and stimulates bile release and controls the bladder. All right. So like I said, there are 4 different responses that you can go into: fight, flight, freeze, and fawn. Let's talk about fight. Okay. So people who are in the fight stress response are people who default to this. They seem to resolve threats through conflict, right? And this was a lot of me. I was in this stress response a lot of my life. I used to like to fight a lot, get loud, and just be crazy. Examples of a fight response include physically reacting or fighting, a clenched jaw or fists, yelling, berating, or mocking others, slamming doors, destroying property, or becoming aggressive. People with a fight response might ignore others and want the final say, have explosive tempers or be easily reactive, feel constantly under threat, push back on authority, and feel remorse or shame after outbursts. Because when your nervous system is in these stress states, you don't have control. You don't. So when you look back on it, you're going to be like, dang, what did I do? You know, it's like, it just, our bodies are crazy, guys. They're crazy. So intelligent though. Okay, when your body is in the flight response, the flight response involves running away from threat. People with this pattern protect themselves by escaping or fleeing danger. Now, I was in this a lot of my life as well. Examples of a flight response include the following: literally running away from a threat, leaving home after a fight or disagreement, ghosting people. Man, I was the queen of ghosting people. Horrible. It's a horrible way to do people, by the way. Don't ever ghost people unless you have to for yourself. Ending relationships abruptly, avoiding commitment, including in relationships. People with a flight response may exhibit these behaviors: trouble being still or having downtime, intense focus on work or other achievements, micromanaging, rushing around, being easily distracted, experiencing anxiety or panic attacks. That is an example of the freeze, of the flight response. I'm sorry. All right, let's get into freeze. Freeze is very interesting to me just because of what your body does and what people go through. So in the freeze response, while the person who is frozen is extremely alert, they are also unable to move or take action against danger. Freezing causes immobility and is an evolutionary survival tactic, similar to when an animal plays dead. This is not a conscious decision, but something out of everyone's control. It's very, very common in animals. It's basically where the limbic system overrides other functions and you literally become immobile. Let me touch on something very quickly. For women out there, I know that there are a ton because the stat is wild. 1 out of every 3 women are sexually abused at some point in their life. Now, a lot of women, even men too, even men, I'm not discrediting or taking away that this happens to boys and men as well. But sometimes there is a bunch of guilt that's carried from those situations because a person might feel like they should have fought back more or screamed no louder or bit kicked or just did more, right? So a lot of women are walking around today feeling very negative about themselves with a bunch of shame because they didn't do more, right? And I'm here to tell you women that feel like that. This is your body's response to protect you. It is not your fault. It is not your fault. I'm going to say it one more time. It is not your fault. This is your body's reaction to protect yourself. This is literally out of your conscious control. So if you've ever been in a situation where you feel like you should have fought back harder, just remember that your nervous system is taking care of you and doing what's best for your body in that situation. Do not be hard on yourselves and let the shame and guilt go. It is not your fault. In the moment of freeze, you may be unable to respond or to move. Let others yell at you. You might have a sense of dread, hold your breath, experience cold, numb, or pale skin, feel a sense of stiffness, and disassociate. People who freeze may experience these behaviors: feeling very calm, having the feeling of watching yourself or being removed from the situation, shut down or avoid situations, feel that life is pointless, have trouble distinguishing reality, what's happening, what's not, self-isolation, heavy social media use, and you give up quickly when you are in this response. Now, like I was talking about earlier, my brain had repressed a ton of memories, right? Because my body went into freeze when I got sexually abused. So I could protect myself. So my younger self could go through the process without actually having to live it. My body was in freeze. Okay. This is a very, very common stress response, especially for sexual abuse. And I lived my life a lot in it. And it becomes almost habitual. Like if anything happens, once your body goes into this as a protection mechanism, your body can go into this for something so little as a tiny little trigger. Boom. Now you're disassociated. Now, I live my life so disassociated, I hardly remember any of it. Literally, I don't remember a lot of my life because I was not consciously here during a lot of my life because my nervous system was in freeze. All right. Last but not least, fawn. Fawn is also a stress response. People who are in fawn try to resolve a threat by placating the aggressor or moving closer to the threat. This behavior often shows up in people with complex PTSD, including those who have had childhood trauma. Fawn can show up as people-pleasing, following others' leads or their decision-making, being reliant on others, being aware of other people's needs, often while ignoring your own, being overly polite or agreeable, avoiding, saying no, and disassociating. This is a newer response that I actually the research just came up about it. So it's not as researched as fight, flight, freeze. But fawn is a nervous system response. And now yes. And it's actually, I can see it in a lot of different people these days. Okay. All right. Now that we got over anatomy, I'm going to start to dive into a little bit of tools that I've used to help clear trauma from my mind, body, and energy. These are tools that, everyone has access to. I'm going to be talking about some that are kind of expensive and then others that are free. So these are just some tools and stuff that has actually really, really, really helped me and helped me to get over a lot of trauma. And these they're very, very powerful modalities. We'll start with magnetic therapy. Magnet fields are not only, something happened there. Let me put this back up. Sorry, guys. Boom. Okay, back to it. The Earth's magnetic field is that keeps the ozone layer, which protects us from ultraviolet radiation from being blown away by solar winds. So there's magnetic energy around us at all times. Magnetism is so intertwined with life itself that every compound on Earth has its own intrinsic, unique magnetic charge. The Earth's magnetism is fundamental to life. Everyone knows how a magnet compass works. Honing in on the north helps humans to navigate, but perhaps less widely known is how the Earth's magnetism plays a role in bird migration and fish navigation. This is so cool. Through magnetism, turtles know how to swim miles away and come back to lay their eggs in the same place they were born at. This is amazing to me. They don't do it with their eyes. They literally have a compass, some sort of magnetic compass within their bodies that helps them to navigate around the world. Magnetic fields have been used for various medical purposes since at least 2500 BC. Once it became understood that humans, animals, and even bacteria can detect and react to them. That's so interesting. It's been around for a very, very long time. Magnetic fields are used successfully for many medical applications, including but not limited to magnetic resonance imaging to help speed bone fracture repair, to increase the rate of wound healing, to decrease pain and treat depression, obsession, and obsessive compulsive disorder. Current in a wire produces a magnetic field as discovered by Michael Faraday in 1839. The properties of the field depend on the properties of the current. If the current's amplitude, i.e., the magnetic vibrations, does not change, it produces what is referred to as a static magnet field. Conversely, a current with changing amplitude produces an oscillating magnetic field. Both field types have played a role in the biological investigations and applications of magnetic field effects. So, magnetic therapy. Magnetic fields have been shown to alter the effects of opioids, stimulate bone growth, reduce tissue swelling, and promote wound healing in both animal models and humans. Magnetic fields that enhance bone growth and aid in wound healing have been in clinical use for at least 40 years. This is not anything new, you guys. Pain reduction has been observed in the studies of breast reconstruction, breast reduction, post-cesarean operative recovery, and osteoarthritis. Devices generating magnetic fields are also effective in treating major depression and obsessive compulsive disorders, as stated earlier. And if you can look on the screen, to the left is a magnosphere. This is one of my favorite magnetic therapies. It is two very, very large copper rings, which are inside of the plastic on each side of the chair. And what it does is it lends you a very, very low magnetic field. This stimulates your vagus nerve and will push your body into parasympathetic rest and digest. When your body is in that state, you can then begin to heal, feel peaceful, and regulate yourself, right? And so this therapy here, I would get out of it and literally feel like I was in the top of the world, literally. I went to Egypt. Both times when I went to Egypt, I felt magnetic, just like I was inside this magnosphere in some of the areas that we went in Egypt, because the magnetic field are so strong there that I literally felt it run through my body. Literally, it feels like waves, almost like your body is just going like this on the inside. It's very, very interesting. Just a little bit about wave technology and just about EMFs. I know a lot of people are pretty nervous about it. There is a nonprofit international commission on non-ionizing radiation protections. Stated mission is to protect people and the environment against adverse effects of non-ionizing radiation. It executes this mission by developing and disseminating science-based guidelines for avoiding risk about biological effects and action mechanisms in concert with international biologists, epidemiologists, physicians, physicists, and chemists. The guidelines in the INCIRP focuses on radio frequency electromagnetic fields from the range of 100 kilohertz to 300 gigahertz, covering applications that run the gamut from 5G technologies, Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, mobile phones, and base stations to microwave ovens, toasters, and low signal technology. I find this interesting. Listen to what they found. The INCIRP The ICNIRP has extensively evaluated these and other technologies utilizing different quantities and temperatures to allow for variation and found no evidence of any cancer, infertility, electrohypersensitivity, or other health effects. That's interesting that they throw 5G in there. I haven't personally dug super deep into the effects on 5G and our physical bodies, but honestly, I mean, this company seems to have, or this nonprofit organization, and they said that, it's okay. So very interesting. All right, let's talk a little bit about one of my favorite modalities. It's called craniosacral. Osteopath Dr. William Sutherland developed this modality that we call craniosacral in the 1930s when he realized there is a small degree of motion allowed in the cranial sutures, allowing them to move or breathe, pulsing with the body. This motion occurs in relationship with the tissues and cerebrospinal fluid in the central nervous system, the membranes surrounding the central nervous system and the sacrum. So there's actually a fluid and there's a pulse within your body that can actually be felt by a trained therapist, a trained craniosacral practitioner or therapist. They can feel this pulse, right? It uses a series of gentle techniques to remove blocks and restore this subtle movement or pulse in the central nervous system. The craniosacral uses gentle digital pressure and does not involve the manipulation or chiropractic adjustment of a skeletal system. The pressure used in the CTS craniosacral is very light, about 5 grams of pressure or less, which is about the weight of a nickel. So when I first went and got this modality done, it was insane because I'm like, how could this possibly change anything? They were just literally touching me like boop, boop, boop. And I'm like, okay, how is this about to do anything? Right. I'm like thinking it's super woo woo. I don't know. But I will tell you guys a little bit about my experience after I read the slide, because it is literally one of the best things that I have ever found to help my repressed anger within my physical body. It's amazing. So craniosacral system uses the structures of the central nervous system, including the skull, the cranial structures, the cerebrospinal fluid, membranes of the brain, and the vertebrae, spinal cord, and sacrum. The craniosacral system is connected with the musculoskeletal system through the vascular system, as well as the sympathetic and parasympathetic nervous systems. Every time I would go in for therapy for craniosacral, the first thing that the practitioner would do is she would regulate me, right? She would down-regulate my nervous system. I would go in there in fight or flight, and about 10 minutes after her laying her hands just like that in the picture, I would feel my body down-regulate. So interestingly enough, she was able to do that with this type of therapy. Trauma anywhere in the body may impact the craniosacral system, restricting normal movement and inhibiting the pulse of fluids. It's believed that normal rhythm can be interrupted by all kinds of trauma, including during birth, childhood injuries, repetitive motion injuries, car accidents, falling accidents, injuries, and even from stressful events, right? It can get stuck in your body. So I sent you guys in the Google Drive link that you should have got along with the free books. I sent you guys a write-up of what somato-emotional release is. I'm not going to get super deep into that. I'm just going to talk about my experience. But some of the benefits of craniosacral are treating headache and migraines, chronic pain conditions, chronic fatigue syndrome, PTSD, post-surgery pain, TMJ, hip and neck pain, sinus conditions and pressure, earaches, IBS, irritable bowel syndrome in adults, colic in children, anxiety and depression in adults, and hyperactivity in children. It is a very, very, very useful therapy. Changed my life. So during a craniosacral system, what can happen is you can have a somato-emotional release. Like I said, I included this into the Google Drive that you guys got if you want to review exactly what it is. But I'll tell you about one of the first somato-emotional releases that I had. I was on her table and she put my body into a position. So what you do to kind of activate these memories, right, is you get manipulated into a certain position. So my head was back and I was kind of like leaned back in this really awkward position. And all of a sudden I felt this crazy need to cry, like bawl. And I'm sitting on her table, and listen, I don't cry in front of nobody. Like, that's been me, my life. I've just numbed my emotions so much that I never brought them out for anybody. So for me to be crying on this table is like, wow. So I'm sitting there bawling. And after that session that day, I felt so incredibly light. I felt happy. It was like a big weight was lifted off of my shoulders. And I don't even know what the memory was. That's the crazy and awesome thing about this therapy, is that sometimes when your higher self knows that it'll be too painful for you or too much for you to handle consciously, it will just let you release that energy out of your system, right? So it's like the same thing as mentally processing it without having to be re-traumatized about that specific instance. Now, I don't know what happened to me when I was in that position, but I know it was awful and bad, because the emotion that got released during when I was in that position was crazy. I'm talking all type of grief, sadness, and just a feeling of just upset, right? Another time I went in, she put her hands on my stomach, on my abdomen, and I shot back into a memory, and I basically shot back into my mother's womb, into my mother's womb. And I could feel every bit of her stress, every bit of her not wanting me. I could feel it all, because when halfway through pregnancy, your baby stress hormones, they cross the placenta. So your baby can feel everything that you're feeling, everything. So that instance was actually very healing. It was kind of heartbreaking at the same time, but it was very healing for me, because I understood that the reason why I have these abandonment issues and have been through so much emotional issues in my life is not because of me, but because of what I was succumbed to, right? I was bathing in stress hormones of a lady that didn't want me and just basically couldn't wait for me to just get out, right? The entire time I was gestating as a baby, okay? And then got taken out and not paid attention to. So I realized through all of this work that I've done on myself, I'm not crazy. I'm not crazy. I have abandonment issues because of these reasons, right? So this modality is probably one of the best that I can recommend to everybody, because it's helped me so much. I used to have so much anger in my life that I had road rage to the point where I would do crazy things on the streets. You know, I was one of them people that would hunt you down and drive into a parking lot and try to fight you, because I would be so angry, right? And road rage is a thing that you can pay attention to if you have it. That means you probably have a lot of stress and anxiety and stuff that you've never dealt with in your body that you need to get rid of. And what I realized is doing craniosacral work and somato-emotional release work, which happens on the table sometimes when you're in a craniosacral appointment. But I found out that I don't have road rage anymore, because I don't have as much anger stuck in my body anymore. It's not overflowing inappropriately onto this world anymore. It's literally gone, because I've processed and released a lot of it out. So I can literally drive, someone will cut me off. Of course, it sparks me a little bit. It's a little bit now, but I don't chase people. I don't chase people anymore. I don't I don't yell and scream. I feel it in my body a little bit, but I can become conscious and aware in the moment and tell myself to breathe and relax. And it really doesn't even matter. And really, I just send that person love, because at the end of the day, if you're cutting people off and driving crazy like that, you got a whole bunch of anxiety that's unresolved, that you've never dealt with. Excuse me. Okay, so let me show you guys a little video. Here are some little biohacks that you can do at home to make yourself feel better. For very, very cheap, you guys can do this along with me. We filmed this earlier today. So I hope you guys can hear it and everything and can see it. But let me play this for you guys.
And we're recording.
Okay. Hey guys, I just want to give you a couple tips and tricks that you can do at home that's super easy and not very expensive and makes massive difference with the way that you feel. The first thing that you can do is you can start tapping on your lymphatic clusters, or where your lymph nodes mostly lay in your body. If you're feeling very stagnant, or you're stiff, or you just feel low of energy, this is a good way to wake that up and to get more mobility within your body And yes, so you'll start from the bottom and go up. So you have a cluster of lymph nodes on the back of your knee. So start tapping the back of your knees, rub them a little bit, tap them a little bit. Go up to right here, and you rub this area, tap this area. Huge clusters of lymph nodes lay there. Go up to your abdomen. They're deep in here, but your biggest lymph node in your body is right here, right by your solar plexus. So you kind of want to stimulate that area, rub, tap, and then you want to do your arms, right? So right here is clusters, here is clusters, tap, 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 tap. And your armpits, you want to just rub it a little bit, tap it, rub it a little bit, tap it, and then right here, right by your, what is this bone called? Clavicle. You tap and you rub. And same thing on the other side, tap and rub, and then do a couple of these, just jump up and down, right in place, shake your body a little bit, and that should help you with nothing. You don't need any tools, you just need your hands. The next one I will be doing is basically the same thing, but you're actually using a vibration ball. So I got this trigger point ball from Amazon for about 90 bucks, cheap and effective. Turn it on, and I turn it to about a medium vibration. Do the same thing. Back of the knees, this area, and you want to do both sides. Both sides, rub it around your abdomen, up and down, and in circles, other way in circles. And you want to go to your arms, armpits, and then again right by your collarbone here, collarbone there. I'm not going to do it because I have a mic on. I want you guys to be able to hear me. But that will produce the same results as if you tap, 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 and rub. All you're really trying to do is get your lymph moving, because in order for your lymph to move, you have to be moving. So therefore, if you're laying stagnant, if you have an office job and you're sitting all day, you should be able to get up every 15 minutes to be able to move that lymph. Otherwise, you're going to have stagnation within the fluids in your body, which causes you to be more tired, your body to be more stiff, and you just load up with toxicity, right? If your lymph isn't moving, then your body is full of toxicity. So, great modality. The next one that I will be showing you is for people that have issues with deep breathing. This is very common in a lot of people, and it's not very widely known. If you have acid reflux, you could have this. It's called a hiatal hernia. And it's basically where your stomach kind of gets twisted around your diaphragm. So you don't have as much space in here to be able to breathe deeply. It can cause a ton of issues like heartburn, like I said earlier, issues with anxiety because you can't get enough breath and oxygen into your body. It can cause really, really massive issues if you have it really bad and it continues on throughout your life and you don't address it. You could even end up having surgery for it. So a simple way to fix the problem is to get an egg, a wooden egg. You can find these on Amazon, or you can just get something that resembles this and that has a little bit of a point here, so you're able to really centralize where the pressure is going and then be able to move that pressure. You can also use your fists if you don't have any objects. That will work too. And basically what you do is you take the tip and you put it right on your solar plexus, but move it a little bit to the left, and you put some pressure on there. It might hurt a little bit. If you have this hiatal hernia, it's going to feel that pressure on your diaphragm and that kind of like feeling when you get, socked in the stomach or something and you can't breathe. But what you're doing is you're actually pulling your stomach down away from your diaphragm. And so you're training those muscles in there to be able to give yourself more space. So you start centralized and then move a little bit towards the left, because that's your stomach, and you're pulling your stomach down. And I would do that maybe 3-4 times a day, probably about 3 or 4 times. So this will actually train those muscles in there and your organs to give yourself more space, to allot yourself more space, to give your diaphragm enough places to actually expand and contract, expand, contract. So now your breath is a lot deeper. This actually helped me a ton. I took deep, deep breaths after I started doing this for only a couple days. So I know it works, and it's very cheap biohack. The next one, let's go back to lymph for a second. So this is really great. I'm sure you guys probably have heard about this. If you haven't, it's a great way to work your lymph. It's a good way to actually stimulate collagen growth within your skin cells. It's a great way to actually detox your body and help cellulate. So it has multiple great things about it, and it's very, very inexpensive. I got my lymph brush set from Amazon. There's a bunch of different kinds, though. You can really choose whatever you want. I think this was about $35, so not expensive at all. All right, so it came with 3 different brushes. The one that I like to use is this medium-sized brush here because it's easier for me to move it around. So what you do when you lymph brush is you start from the outside and move inwards, and you always brush towards your heart. So what I do is I start at the bottom towards my feet, and basically light pressure. Your lymph sits right underneath your skin, so you do not need to do heavy pressure. All you want to do is stimulate it and move it. This actually is exfoliating. It feels really, really good. And what you do is you just brush up. You brush both legs, front and back, brush. And you really kind of want to put pressure, a little bit more pressure towards the places where you have a lot of lymph nodes. And you brush up toward your heart. And then you do your upper body, start on the outside, brush towards your heart. Make sure you spend more time in the clusters. Sometimes those areas get inflamed because we walk around in this toxic world. And so we take in toxicity all day, every day, not only from our food, but we take it in from the air. We take it in from the liquids that we drink. So we live in a very toxic world. It's important for us to detox whenever we can. So brush your whole body, brush towards your heart, all the way towards your heart. It feels really good. Like I said, it's exfoliating, and it's it's great for your skin. You'll see a difference if you do this daily. All right. Now I will go to scraping. So these scraping tools are pretty cheap. Amazon, again, maybe like $30. I think I got all of these scraping tools for. They come with all different shapes and sizes. This is the one that I like to use. I also like to use this. It kind of depends on what part of your body you're scraping, but this one I found is good for me. So a lot of people have a lot of tension in their necks, a lot of tension in their whole body, actually, because you actually have a lining called fascia that goes around every single organ, that goes around every single muscle, and sometimes that fascia throughout life can get caught on each other, can get twisted and mangled. And what scraping does is it really, really helps loosen that fascia so you have more mobility. Now, what scraping can also do is it can stimulate emotion. So sometimes when I have scraped before, I've gotten pretty emotional about random things that I didn't even think I even cared about anymore, but obviously my fascia was holding on to some sort of memory, right? So scraping is a really, really great modality. I really, really like to do it on my neck because I have a lot of tension in my neck. Our traps right here is where a lot of people hold stress. This is actually our stress point. So it creates a lot of tension within our necks, right? So what you do, grab some coconut oil or just a natural type oil or lotion, and all you do is scrape. You literally just scrape all around wherever you might feel tension. And what you'll feel with scraping is a lot of little bumps. And honestly, everything should be smooth on your body. There should be no bumpiness. There should be no, like you can even hear it. That's a lot of scar tissue, right? I've done my back before. My lower back has a ton of scar tissue because I was a gymnast for 16 years. So over time, obviously I have scar tissue on my lower back. Now, when I find that I scrape and do this on a consistent basis, I can literally turn my head way more. I have more mobility. There's no pain. and then my back pain goes away. Now, I have scraped Billy before, and he had some back pain, and I wanted to make sure that this wasn't just me, that it works on everybody, right? And so I scraped his back, and he was able to move easily, very, very flexible, and the pain actually went away. So it's very, very a cheap, easy way to really create that mobility in your body, to relax your muscles, and to untangle your fascia pretty much. So yes, a very, very awesome modality. So last but not least, taping. So I learned this from my good friend, Dr. Perry, Stop Chasing Pain on Instagram. He is the lymph doc. He knows so much about health and wellness. He is not only a chiropractor, but he's so many other things. So shout out to Dr. Perry. He actually sent me this tape. This is athletic tape. Pretty cheap. You can get it anywhere. And the things that it does, very, very, very effective in so many different ways, right? So the first thing that he had taught me was to basically, if you have any problem areas on your body, you can stick tape there. Because if you're unaware, right? If you're unaware of something, then you can't change it, you can't fix it. So let's say there's a point in your body where there's tightness. What you can do is stick a piece of tape there so your awareness stays in that point, and your body will naturally do what it's supposed to do because of its intelligence and try to fix that area, right? So it might loosen up on its own. Another thing that you can do to stimulate your vagus nerve, which will help your body go into parasympathetic if you're, let's say, in fight or flight. A good way to stimulate that parasympathetic nervous system is to place a piece of tape right behind your ear. You can do this at night, you can do this during the day, but just applying pressure to the back of your ear, running down your neck, kind of pull down. So there's that pull right there. And what that's doing is it is stimulating your vagus nerve. When you stimulate your vagus nerve, that nerve is called the wandering nerve, and it goes all throughout your body and hits all of the different organs that basically make your parasympathetic nervous system function. So if you tape your neck right behind your ear, that keeps that vagus nerve stimulated, and it will push your body into rest, digest, parasympathetic, relax. And I've used this many times, and it's very, very calming, and it just helps you go through your day with less stress. Now, the other one that I love that he taught me is to basically, okay, so throughout my life, I have had multiple reasons to close my heart. It's been difficult for me to work it back open because of the trauma, because of the abuse, because of everything that the body goes through. Naturally, to avoid getting hurt, your body's response will close off, right? So my heart has been closed for a lot of years, and it's been difficult for me to open it, to let love in again. And so what he taught me is when your heart is closed, and you, even physically on the outside of your body, what you can do is you can stretch your skin to be open, and then put a piece of tape once you stretch your skin open, so it holds open right over your heart chakra. And literally, I know it's not even right now, but I'm just doing this for you guys. You guys can obviously do this in a mirror so you can get the tape in the correct spots. But all you want to do is basically pull your skin open right over your heart chakra. And you can leave it on for an hour, 2 hours, 3 hours, however long you feel comfortable. But I'm telling you, this makes massive change. I felt more empathetic, more grateful, more euphoric once I had this piece of tape on my skin. And all it is a piece of tape. So that is it for my small little at-home biohacks. I hope you guys enjoy.
All right. So just some small things that you can do at home that really make a massive difference. If you guys get in the habit of doing these things, it can really, really make you feel better and different and amazing. Other ones that you can do, you can cold plunge. You know, if you don't have like a lake or something by you, you can just take cold showers. That helps your lymphatic system. And then do things the opposite of your norm, right? So like brush your teeth with your left hand if you're right-handed. Brush your hair with your left hand. Cross your arms in the opposite direction. This all creates new neural pathways, which makes your brain work and create more connections, which makes you more conscious, makes you more aware, and makes you more intelligent. If you're feeling very anxious, you can touch your lips. The parasympathetic nervous system has a ton of little nerve fibers all over your lips. Of course, wash your hands. But if you touch your lips, then that can stimulate your parasympathetic nervous system, and you can then be able to relax, right? Okay. Let's see what's next here. I talk about emotional freedom technique, EFT. That's a huge, huge modality for people. I actually did a podcast diving deep into it. So if you guys watch that podcast, you can get some information. I'm just running out of time here, so I'm going to run through these things pretty quickly. I just find importance of routines. Routines are so important, guys. So important. Our bodies, they like that routine, that schedule. They like it. So it's important for us to create routines because this is naturally what our bodies like to do. I have a morning routine where I wake up and I think about 5 things that I'm grateful for. I then write them down, do my meditation, I stretch, I think, I plan for the day. My evening routine kind of is similar. I really, really think deeply about how grateful I am for everything around me. I write that down. Writing it down really, really pins that into your memory. And then I drift off to sleep after a little bit of meditation. Really, really, really phenomenal. It's helped me stay kind of my head straight, right? All right, so I wanted to give you guys a little bit on our supplements that we take because people have asked about them. I'm not going to go into what they do because, like I said, my time is running out, but I do want to tell you guys what they are. So the degree and rate at which your body can absorb a mineral or vitamin taken together is known as bioavailability. So make sure that you're taking whatever you're taking. Sometimes you're not absorbing any of it. So make sure that your supplements are real good quality because you could be taking in a bunch of fillers and just other stuff, and it could just not be a very, very good ingredient, high quality ingredient, which then, it just makes it not available for your body to take in. In the morning, take sea moss, resveratrol, quercetin. I take Focus and Energy by Dr. Amen. I take omega-3s, silymarin, which is it's good for your liver. Saccharomyces boulardii, hopefully I said that right. That's a probiotic that fights candida. Probiotics and apple cider vinegar. In the afternoon, I take vitamin C, omegas, resveratrol, creatine, and amino acids. And in the evening, I take colostrum, magnesium, and these REM sleep chewables from Dr. Amen. Colostrum is really, really good if you guys have leaky gut. I would recommend taking that. Billy's supplement list. He takes the Brain and Body Power Max by Dr. Amen's brands. He takes quercetin, L-lysine, zinc, ashwagandha. He also takes copper, maca root, colloidal silver, gold water, and magnesium. So I take colloidal silver and gold water as well. Those 2 liquids are so phenomenal. I literally have taken colloidal silver probably for over 7 years now, every single day, and I hardly ever get sick. But I think that colloidal silver is a big reason why I have not gotten sick with colds and stuff over the past 7 years. Gold water, it improves nervous system, improves brain function, boosts immune system, improves sleep, and improves creativity. Very, very phenomenal. I just started taking that since I've known Billy because I didn't know anything about it before him. So, we sell colloidal silver and gold water. Anyways, guys, that is the last of my section of the Manifest Destiny workshop. I appreciate you all so much. I'm honored to have been here with you all today and to be able to teach everyone some of the knowledge that's in my brain. And I hope to continue to do so.